Coming to you live from an oubliette somewhere in Enniskillen's Marble Arch Caves, it's this week's Apocalypse. I am your co-host, Kevin Lenihan. With me, as always, in the deep dark dank, is John Ferris. John, how you doing?
A little claustrophobic.
Yeah, well, it's alright. I mean, it could be worse. We could be being eaten by the beasts that lurk in the dark somewhere around us.
Yeah, there is always that danger.
I guess that's why they told us not to wander away from our tour group, I suppose. Also, the horrible sort of splintered shin bone that's now poking through my leg after falling down this hole is also probably the reason they didn't want us wandering off.
I kind of think that's unavoidable as soon as you get into a cave.
Yeah, it seems like it, doesn't it? From things that I've seen,
Yeah.
It seems like that's the most popular of injuries to have. Oh. So, luckily, well, I don't know, John, about you, but I came prepared this time, because things like this keep happening to us.
Yeah.
I thought, we'll have a grand day out, we'll go to the caves, we'll look at the stalagmites and the stalactites, and try to remember which one is which.
Tights.
I think the tights are the up one, like they hang from the ceiling.
No, I think the opposite. Do you not pull tights up? Is that not the thing?
I thought it was they cling tight to the ceiling. We may this may not be a good way to remember which one's which.
Just as well this isn't an educational podcast.
Yeah, it's good. It's good that we're not having to do a test on this. But I brought some DVDs with me now. I'm hoping against hope that somewhere in your...
Can I stop you right there?
Yes.
So you brought the DVDs and the player, I'm assuming?
Yes.
You didn't perhaps bring any climbing equipment or flares or anything?
There wasn't a lot of room in my backpack after I put in the Doritos in the umbongo.
Fair enough. Yeah. No, here, priorities.
Sorry, do you want to be stuck down a hole without snacks?
No. Yeah. Sorry for doubting you.
So less of the lip, okay? Right. So we're hearing weird noises and things are crawling around in the dark, and it's not just John being rude about my packing abilities. So here in my cool collection of cave-threatening movies, we have from 2005 Bruce Hunt's The Cave.
Oh, aptly named.
Indeed, very very useful probably.
Mm-hmm.
Then also from 2005, weirdly, we have Neil Marshall's The Descent.
Oh, this could be another Dante's Peak volcano kind of thing.
Feels like maybe it could be, yes. And then we have from the far-flung future of 2020, we have Andrew Traucki's Blackwater: Abyss. Yeah, which, is an outside contender because none of that. Well, there could be we fell down an abyss, I guess, the oubliette. So, who knows, that might be helpful. Who knows? But I'd say before these, whatever it is that is beyond us in the dark gets packish, let's sit down and let's take 6 hours and watch these movies. Okay, well, I'm losing a lot of blood here, but it doesn't really hurt that much because I'm so cool.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit and whine in the dark like a whiny person who whines in the dark. Mm-hmm. So, John, let's just get right to it. And let's talk about, from 2005, Bruce Hunt's The Cave. What did you... actually, I should probably just give a brief description of how this movie begins. So it's about a group of cave divers who vertically descend into a cave system, go through a few chambers, and then are trapped by rocks, and then have to face whatever has taken up residence in the cave.
Ooh.
That's the description for this movie. May also be the description for every other movie, but we'll see when we get there.
Yeah, we'll take each one as it comes.
Indeed. So, John, what did you think of The Cave?
The Cave is a slog to get through. It's like every cliche is rammed into this very boring movie, and the characters are bland. The characters aren't really even characters.
Mm-hmm.
And they're they even just look boring. Like,
yeah.
Cole Hauser just has this really boring face. He plays Jack in it, and it's just like, every time he like turned up, I was like, who's that guy again? Oh yeah.
Yeah, everybody's just like I can't define people beyond. He's the leader,
Yeah.
I guess,
Yeah.
and then he has his brother, who I guess is supposed to be like, oh, he's a loose cannon. Oh,
Yeah.
he's like he
Although
takes risks or whatever. That doesn't really come up or matter,
No.
really, at any point. And then you got Morris Chestnut holding it together there, running around the place, being like, to the point where my wife, who I watched it with, was like, whenever I talked about the lead guy, I was talking about Cole Hauser, but she was talking about Morris Chestnut, and it got very confusing at one point because we thought we were talking about the same person, and then we definitely weren't.
Brilliant.
So that was confusing. Lena Headey has just, even like before she showed up, I said, I bet she does science.
Yeah.
And then she just does science.
She's the science lady.
She just does generic science.
But they need her to they need her to tell them what the creature is or the parasite or whatever. I can't see, to be honest, so much of this movie is a blur. It actually feels like I watched it months ago instead of like this week.
Yeah,
Because I just kind of zoned out the parts because, as I say, because it's so riddled with cliches that you kind of just are like, anyone who's seen any amount of movies, especially horror movies or thrillers or anything like that, you just kind of like, you know exactly what's going to happen. I call the end before it happened, and I'm not saying this is like, oh, I'm very good at, look at me, I'm clever, man. Like, me and my wife were sitting there going, yeah, that's going to happen, isn't it? Yep, there we go. Like, there's no surprises in this movie at all.
The very end was so painful.
Yeah.
Like the actual proper like final like 2 minutes or whatever was insufferably bad.
Yeah.
I don't want to necessarily spoil the cave.
Well,
But, oh
you know what?
my.
I mean, I would be comfortable enough putting up a spoiler warning for all three of these movies because I kind of think the end, especially if the descent needs to be talked about a bit, it's kind of important to it. I don't think the ending of this movie is important at all.
No, it feels so tacked on and stupid and pointless and not at all set up.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit.
And also, like, I mean, I'll get into it later when we're talking about the next two movies, but I also find the kind of prologue of this movie is kind of pointless as well. Like, it has these, then and I kind of laughed at the wee writing it where it's telling you like to know what date it's taking place. Just says the Cold War, and you're like going,
what does that mean?
Right?
That was a very long period. That was like a 40-year period.
And again, we were very confused watching, just going, why can they not be more specific? Like, what's the importance that it? Are they trying to keep it vague for a reason? It's like, no, that bit actually didn't even really matter.
Nope, it didn't. It was completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
It was just, I thought it was really funny that they just kept sort of finding people's boots everywhere, as if people had been just, it was like, if you've ever read Asterix the Gaul, anytime anyone punches a Roman up into the sky and it's just their sandals left sitting there, they get punched out of their sandals. I was like, are they trying to imply that people have been pulled up so fast that they've just come out of their shoes? Is that what's happened?
I really like that idea. That would have been a much better movie if like Asterix was what they were fighting.
Yeah, I was waiting for that to happen to somebody, and it didn't happen. I set myself up there. To be honest, that's my fault for expecting them to like lean into a joke, I guess, or maybe try to make that cool. You couldn't make that cool.
At one point as well, I was laughing really hard about the. They have a lot of conversations while they're underwater.
Oh my god!
Yes. Going, how are they doing this? My wife kind of didn't really pay attention because how can you with this movie? And she's going, oh well, they'll probably have wee radios and like a wee headset and stuff. I went, no, wait until it shows you a close up and you see the close up, and it's the tube in the mouth kind of snorkel. I don't know what you call them.
Because like you'd expect to have radio mics in a sort of if it's like one of those big sort of all over your face masks.
Yeah.
That would make sense with like a helmet, but it isn't. It's a pair of goggles, and it's the rebreather inside your mouth between your teeth. But they're just talking like normal. I mean, they must have known while they were on set here. This is goofy because they had the things literally in their mouths in scenes that there was dialogue written for. And like they're moving around as if they're talking and like pointing at things and like acting as if they're talking, but voices are just coming from nowhere.
It's there's so many things like that in this movie. Like there's no attention to detail. There's no like it just doesn't seem like they really cared enough. They're just like rushing. Although saying that, apparently they spent a lot of money to make the underwater cave areas, because I think all these movies. They made their cave structures sets, in a studio because like it's not really safe to have a load of actors and then the insurance to have them on
equipment and people with expensive cameras and sound gear in a damp place. Yeah, you can forgive them for building the sets.
And then when half your crew end up with their shin bones sticking out of their legs,
exactly as is traditional.
Like it's crazy that you watch these movies and that is you then realize that that's a bit of a cliche in this genre.
This weird through line through them all of like I'm gonna go ahead and say that outside of the generic bullet wound in the shoulder, it is film's most popular injury.
Yeah,
is the I fell, I landed on my leg, and now my shin bone is poking out through my skin.
And like when it's done right, it's very effective.
Yes.
And it is like, oh.
In one of these films, I think it's done pretty effectively. Yes.
But yeah, this movie's a mess.
It is, yes.
Like even, I think one of the most important things, if you're having this kind of, this movie where you're going into this, what should be claustrophobic feeling environment, then you need to really get that right before you even think about adding your monsters or whatever the fuck you're fighting in here. I actually, the way that the best way I can think of it is one of these movies, and we'll get to it, doesn't even really need the monsters for it to work.
True. That's true. I think we should not talk. I think you are getting ahead of yourself there, and I would like to talk a lot about that.
Yeah.
But yes, this movie is nothing. This movie doesn't have there's nothing scary, I think, going on in this film, really. There's monsters that are ill-defined, that are poorly shot.
Yeah.
And, I think they're trying to disguise what the monster looks like in that sort of, trying to maybe echo something like Alien, where throughout the entire runtime of at least the first Alien movie, you see the creature so little, and you just see bits of it. You see bits of its mouth. But the thing with Alien is that they were confident in what they had enough to hold on those things. Whereas in this, it's like shaky cam and it's moving around, and then it's really close on this, the head of this thing that's moving about way too much. And you're like, I don't know what's happening right now, and they haven't made me care about what's happening.
Yeah.
And then whenever you see it and it comes flying in, you're just like, is this a joke? Is this a joke? Is this the monster?
Yeah.
And what's it doing to this poor woman now? She's not getting killed by it. It's just sort of landed on her and it's just there. And I guess we're just supposed to be like, oh my God, and be panicking with her, but it's not doing anything.
No, there's no, and I mean, that's the problem. There's no tension. There's nothing really that grabs you in this movie, and it just becomes, as I said at the start, it becomes a slog to get through. It's boring, and the environment actually it's probably one of the better constructed ones in a sense. It's very expensive looking and it looks impressive at times.
Oh, like the sets. They have they must have built a really big indoor climbing wall at least. Because they spend a lot of time on that fucking wall. They must have been wanting to get their money's worth out of it because they're on it for 2/3 of the movie.
Yeah, but that's kind of the problem. That it all kind of, I was going to say it looks good, but it doesn't. Even it's shot in such a way that it's not even that exciting, or you can't really glean anything from it. But yeah, I think it's a complete failure of a movie, to be honest.
Yeah, it's so dull, and everyone in it, the characters in it, are nothing. Cole Hauser and I can't even remember their characters' names, but like all the guys on the team on the cave diver team are just big featureless blocks of granite that are like at odds with each other for no reason other than there needed to be drama in the scene.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's great in this. Lena Headey is not good in this, and she can act.
Yeah.
She's a good actress. Morris Chestnut's good as well. I've seen him be really good in things as well. And he's rubbish. Daniel Day-Kim is in this, and I don't know why he's even there. He's just... he's running around with a camera, and then he disappears for a point in the film, and I remember saying out loud, wait, where's Daniel Day-Kim gone? And then they just happen into him. You're like, wait, how did he get up here to this place that's apparently really hard to get to? And he just shows up to get killed.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, okay, cool. It was so just, there was nothing, like, there's nothing I could think of to recommend this movie. It doesn't even have, like, good special effects.
No.
Like, it's very dark, so you can't really see, oh, that's crappy CG, really. But it isn't great.
Paint by numbers plot, as well, you know, nothing even, I was going to say nothing outstanding with the direction, like, nothing even really noteworthy or good.
No.
So it is just very standard. As you say, the writing's poor, the acting just seems like everyone just wasn't really into it, to be honest.
Yep. People, at least they showed up.
Yeah.
That's it. They showed up and they mostly memorized their lines.
Maybe.
So probably. I mean, they could have been reading cue cards. There was some real like reading off a card acting
there
here
really
and there
was.
from people that I wouldn't expect it from. And it was just, yeah. All in all, I think this film is just not worth your time.
No.
Okay, well, the beasts in the dark are getting restless. I managed to pop the bone back in. And that's grand now. I've made a splint out of some umbongo straws. I don't think they're maybe the most rigid structure we could have used.
And I think the Cheeto dust getting into the wound probably isn't going to help.
Yeah, that's not... I mean, it's tangy and delicious, but it's not the best for hygiene. But anyway, John, we also watched The Descent, directed by Neil Marshall from 2005. Now, this is a film in which a group of cave divers descend vertically through a shaft into a cave system, go through several chambers, and then are blocked in by falling rocks.
Oh.
Stop me if you've heard this one before.
No, that seems fairly original.
Yeah. So, John, what did you think of Neil Marshall's The Descent?
Ooh, I actually kind of did a wee bit of research because, as we said earlier, it was kind of like it's one of those Dante's Peak volcano type situations of like
Deep Impact Armageddon as well.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. They tend to rear their head. Yeah, and I found out that this is the one that was actually rushed to make the deadline, so to speak, and that is shocking because this movie's fucking great, and The Cave should be embarrassed that it came out in the same year as it.
Yeah, it is absolutely like. The setup is identical in a way, like I've just said it.
Yeah.
It's the same basic premise at the beginning. But my god, the execution couldn't be more different.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
And I mean, you can even tell there's parts of this movie that don't look that good. Like the effects and they're a bit, you know, when they're descending and stuff, it looks kind of like green screeny and things because it is. And that's fine. It's just these wee moments where it maybe takes you out for a second, but it all seems to be at the start, and then once it gets into like the cave and the main issue with them being stuck in with these beasts,
yes,
it becomes so good. It's brilliant. It just as we said about the cave, it lacking that kind of claustrophobic feel. This movie has it in spades, and there's actually there's a bit. I'm going to add a spoiler warning to this one because I think it's very important to kind of touch on the end bit when you're talking about the claustrophobia, because there's a bit in this movie kind of near the start when the cave is collapsing, so to speak, and they're in this tight wee spot, and that's bad enough.
Yeah.
And when they get out of that, I kind of thought, okay, it's not too bad, until near the end when it shows you her like escaping out of the cave, and she gets to the surface, and I realized, was like, I feel like I can breathe now. So like, there was this sense of claustrophobia that I didn't even realize I had throughout the entire movie, that only when she escaped, and we can go over that, but only when she escaped did I realize that, oh no, I felt that the whole time. And that to me, that is why this movie stands out. Spoiler warning, but from the three of these so much, because it has that, and it gets everything to do with the setting right, that as we touched on earlier, the monsters aren't really needed at all.
It's kind of like, it didn't necessarily strike me before, but like this time watching it, I was like, the part where you get that first moment of as part where our main character, I guess she is, Sarah, she's our protagonist.
Yeah.
There's the first time when something tense happens really well. I mean, there's some shocking stuff happens like in the sort of prologue at the beginning.
Yeah.
But when something really tense happens in the cave, as it were, in the underground where they're spelunking, it's absolutely horrifying. She becomes wedged in this extremely tight crawl space, and it is so tense, and it's frightening. And even when that's over, it's still like, oh my god, this is so tense. And you haven't, like, they've hinted at the idea that there might be something in there at this point, but you almost forget, because you're almost like, this could just be a movie about some people who are trapped down here.
Yeah.
Like, the cave didn't feel that way. The cave had zero tension to it at all, whereas this film is constantly tense, and it does that, it sets that up in a way where it has you primed from the beginning to sort of feel tense for most of the film, so that like you have that beginning bit where they have a few jump scares, but which they do earn, most of them. There's one jump scare that I feel like they don't earn, where someone just comes up behind her to say hello, but that is almost preparing you for something dramatic when someone comes up behind someone later and scares them, and it goes rotten. So at that point you feel like it's unearned then, but then later you're like, oh no, they were just setting up this, which is maybe the most dramatic and pivotal moment of the film, I think. Like, for the characters anyway, is when someone sneaks up behind someone and accidentally scares them, and then something bad happens.
Yeah.
Because there is this whole... That's the thing they do so well in this movie, is that they set up the characters so that you know him. Like, in like we were saying about the cave there, and I was like, I don't know who anybody is in the cave. Well, I remember who Beth is in The Descent. For me, she was like one of my favorite characters, because she was like, she was so
genuinely upset when she's picked off, let's say. Yes,
when a bad thing happens to her, and it is quite bad what happens to her.
Yeah.
And she was my favorite character in the film, because she was so like relatable, and she was really like, she felt like a real character. She didn't feel like, sometimes people write characters as like stereotypes and stuff, but she felt like she wasn't that.
Yeah.
And like you get a real sense of friendship among the characters as well. Like, they really know each other.
This is because when Neil Marshall got involved, apparently it was the group, the cave, what would you call them?
The spelunkers?
Yeah,
yes, spelunkers is my favorite word to describe that. Yes.
Apparently it was going to be mixed. There was going to be males and females and all this. But he wanted to change it to an all-female cast, and to kind of go against the previous movie he did, the what's the werewolf one?
Dog Soldiers,
yes.
Yeah.
Because that was predominantly male. And he consulted with his female friends, because he didn't want the characters to be two-dimensional, like your usual horror trope female characters. and I think the actresses were quite involved as well. There's a scene in particular where Sarah bumps into one of her friends who is slowly dying, and some things are said between them, and apparently the scripted version of that was really crap. So they went, Neil Marshall and the actresses went, had a few pints, and rewrote the script. And the producers were kind of annoyed until they realised, actually, that is better. So, like, all these wee things that, like, you could tell everyone involved cared about it. Like, you know, like, it didn't surprise me when I was reading these wee stories and like, finding out this stuff of, like, yeah, there's so much more care and attention to detail has went into this that was missing in the cave. And it makes so much difference because, as you say, like, all of these characters feel real. They stand out. Juno, you're so annoyed with her for like leaving the map and stuff, and you're like,
yeah, she's
you can understand where she's coming from and why she's doing this, but at the same time you're like, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, they've all got character. Everyone has a character, and you know who they are. You get to know who they are.
Yeah,
but like the middle of the film, like some people expose themselves as being maybe different than you thought they were, which is great, but it still fits.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, you're like, oh, and then they get the impression that everybody else knows everything about everyone else and is not necessarily too surprised.
Yeah.
By these things, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what she's like, and it's like, oh yeah, you wanted to discover this cavern, did you? For me, or was it really, or was it for you? You know,
and like you always get that stuff to know where. How would you really react in these situations? You know, no one really knows. Like, everyone's always quick to like, oh well, I would just, you know, punch the beastie in the face and like use the corpses of my defeated foes to escape the cave. You know, everyone thinks they're going to be as complete bad. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people think they'll be a complete badass, and a lot of the times they're the ones that are the first to crumble. They're
shitty bastards. yeah, because there is a point where someone is shouting for help.
Yeah.
And there's two sisters, I think they are, the Swedish ones.
Yes, yeah.
I think they're sisters, and they're hiding, and they're like holding each other, and you get a real sense of like the relationship between them and how much they care about each other. And they hear Juno shouting, and then she's like, she's gonna bring them all down on her heads, and the other one's just like, as long as it's not down on my head, and then she just hugs her, and you're like, yeah, okay, right, well, they're where they are, and they're looking after each other, and they're just like, at the minute, they don't care, and that makes sense. Yeah. Whenever they're doing that, and everyone's like you do get to know people, and you're like, it's bad when like someone gets their hand really messed up at one point, and you're like, well, there goes the really good free climber. Yeah. Who was like seemed to be the person who was like, as far as I could tell, I was Rebecca, I think is her name.
Yes.
She's like the most together, sensible, like. She's like the big sister of the group almost, who's like, no, let's be sensible and let's pay attention to our surroundings. She's like listing all these rules as they're marching down, and they're all like, okay, shut up, just
and like,
leave it.
But just what you say, they're like they do fit into these like almost stereotypical roles, like the big sister, but it feels natural and doesn't feel forced because of the work that they did to make their nuanced characters work, and I think that's the main thing that really gets this movie like on its feet is the characters work so well that the rest of it kind of, you know, as long as they don't kind of break character, or they don't do something kind of out of character, then you're completely on board with it. You know, you're just seeing how these characters react to this ridiculous situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could have all these same characters in this, like you'd have like the first third of this film be the same, and then just have it be about people trapped in a cave. Yeah. But then there are also monsters, which is a thing I do like in a film when something is really tense and messed up, and then also there are monsters. Yeah. And I love the monsters in this movie.
The design's great. Really it's very very you can tell they looked at Nosferatu for some like for the design choices.
It's like the bald head and the ears mainly is just like in the end, like the furrowed brow and all that stuff's very
and they've changed enough of it. Like they do look very unique though. Like saying that, like they do stand out in a way. Yeah. And the monster design's great in it, and
Yeah, and it's so tense. It's so well shot, and I will profess I think Neil Marshall is a really good guy for people being trapped in places. His movies about people being trapped in places and fending things off, I really like. Like we mentioned Dog Soldiers already earlier. I love Dog Soldiers. It is by no means a perfect film. It has huge flaws, but it has enough sort of, I don't know, it's like whenever he makes a movie like that and goes all in, and you can tell everybody is all in on the premise.
Yeah.
It works beautifully. I love Dog Soldiers so much because it's a genuinely like tense, scary movie, but you can laugh at it as well because of the way the characters behave in it.
Yeah.
Is funny and relatable, and like you see people dealing with their fear in different ways, and he's really good with that kind of stuff. He did that most recent Hellboy movie, and it was just dull. I was expecting big things from that, and that's on me, I guess. Just because I was like, "Oh, Neil Marshall's doing a Hellboy movie, brilliant."
Yeah, that
but
was
it
unfortunate.
wasn't. It didn't feel like a Neil Marshall movie to me. Is the thing,
or a Hellboy movie,
or a Hellboy movie? Yeah, it was like I don't know if that's studio interference or what that is, or someone trying to engineer another cinematic universe or something like that. Like everybody wants to do these days. But I really love Dog Soldiers. It's stupid. Some of the dialogue in Dog Soldiers is daft.
Yeah.
But the way they handle it and the way the characters get on, it pretty much works most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And in this, I think they do the same thing where it's really good dialogue. Some of it probably improvised. Obviously, you're saying some of it was rewritten by the cast themselves.
Yeah.
And that I think is really good. I love like, I do like how this ends as well. I do like how this ends. Some people might not like it. Some people might feel disappointed. I love the end of this film.
The spoiler warning for anyone who if anyone hasn't seen this movie, just go watch it. It's
so good.
Very good. Like
It's brilliant.
If you like the idea of a claustrophobic horror movie, then you'll struggle to find much better than this. But
if you have actual issues with claustrophobia, maybe don't though, because they do a really good job of making you feel enclosed.
But it might be like, like I have arachnophobia, and the movie Arachnophobia is kind of like, I kind of like watching that. Even though
I don't know if a lot of arachnophobics feel that way about that movie.
I suppose
though.
I'm not like extremely arachnophobic. I just hate spiders, I suppose. But I kind of sometimes like every few years or so, I'll stick it on and just go, and they're all over me.
Punish yourself.
Yep. I don't deserve nice things. It's like the Cat of Nine Tails thing.
It's just like you're a flagellant, are you? Just whipping yourself with spiders.
Sometimes it does feel like I'm a movie flagellant. Yep.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
But now I forget what I was saying. Movies, yes. Descent, it's great. Oh yes, the end. That's what we were talking about.
Yes.
So the American version apparently ends with the happy ending.
Oh really? Does it cut early? Does it?
Yeah. So I think that ending was made for the American version, and then it seems that Neil Marshall wanted the kind of more depressing, fake out ending, and I think it does work very well because like the whole ending's like the happy version, let's say, is so quick and so different from the rest of the movie that you do feel like something's not right here. Even the first few, and you're like, it's suddenly like she's getting out very quickly, she's getting to the car, she's flying, there we go. When
the turn comes, it feels good, because you're like, oh right, okay, now we're back in the shit.
Yeah.
Just like we should be, because that's the whole rest of the movie. Like the tone is suddenly just whips back in, and you're like, oh right, okay. Yeah, this feels right. Now there is a sequel to this, which is not does not involve Neil Marshall didn't make it. No. I don't know if it's the same writers or anything. I think Neil Marshall wrote a lot of the script anyway, so it doesn't involve him.
I think he might. Was he not a producer on it?
He'll definitely be a producer because of the characters and stuff like that. That's I feel like that's just a money thing, though. That's just like he gets points on the sequel, but it's not great. It's it's watchable. I've seen it like twice, I think now, the sequel to this.
Yeah.
Which is weird to say, but it's not, it pales in comparison to the first one, and it does a lot of like cheapening of things that happen in the first film.
Yeah.
So you watch the second movie and you're like, well, now this thing in the first film is way less impactful than it would have been otherwise. So I would advise anyone to just ignore The Descent 2.
Especially, you know, when the fake out ending happens, it's left even open that this could have all been in Sarah's head, and that she was the one who actually just killed her friends. You know, because it does kind of. In fact, they had a scene when she experiences her trauma of losing her husband and child at the start. Apparently, they had cut in the image of one of the crawlers, and Neil Marshall took it out because it's like, no, that basically informs the rest of the film that it's all in her head. Then, you know, if you have that, then where did that image come from? But you know, this leaves it open enough that you could think, bet you she just killed everyone and that she's just went mad.
You can interpret it that way if you like. Now, I'm just going to stay firmly on the side of there are scary monsters under the ground that eat people, and listen to them like bats or whatever, or blah, blah, blah. Yep, can't see, blind, but also extremely formidable in a cave.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd probably be shit if you encountered it on the surface.
Oh, yeah.
You might be alright, but outside of that.
And like the girls do really well against like, you know, if it's one or two, and they can fight these things. I kind of even like that it's not showing that these monsters are like, it's not like the xenomorph alien, you know, where it's the perfect killer. It's like these things are still kind of like it's almost like humans who didn't get to the surface and had to evolve in a different way, and
they went down a different path, I think is what they imply. That they are sort of like people, but not really.
Yeah.
You know, they're like the evil. God, it's about to make a really terrible obscure video game reference there that probably would not play. But there's like weird elves in Skyrim that live underground that are basically these guys.
Yes.
That are like,
I know what you're talking about, the Falmer. So we'll just leave it at that.
Or whatever they are. Yeah, I think they might straight up be just rip-offs of the monsters from this movie, though.
Yeah.
Now that I think of it. So yeah.
Speaking of video games, I think the rebooted Tomb Raider took a lot of. They do mention Tomb Raider in this. One of the characters says, "I'm an English teacher, not bloody Tomb Raider or something."
Tomb Raider.
And there's a bit where Sarah comes out of the bloody water and has one of those climbing axes in her hand, and to me it was just like, that's the rebooted Tomb Raider right there. Like, you know, it's definitely like there's shots like that. You know, whether or not that's true, I don't know.
Are you gonna go and are you gonna write Rihanna Pratchett a friggin' angry letter? You ripped off The Descent.
No, I'm gonna go, well done. Take inspiration where you can. It worked really well. I like those games.
Cool. All right then. Fair enough. So this is a big, I would say, if we did a thing at the end of everything where we said, would we recommend? I would say big recommendation from me. Yeah. Lots of scary monsters are good, and even without the scary monsters, this film would still be really good. Okay, well, we've managed to limp our way back to the gift shop here. There's some nice little pencil toppers, and it's this little hologram of a wee fuzzy caveman with a wee helmet on, with a wee light on it. I might buy one of them. But the rest of the tour group seems to have been reduced to sort of a bloody mush all over the walls. And I can't find the exit because most of the lights are off. We've definitely been followed out of the system. Thanks, John, for basically carrying me the whole way. This Umbongo splint was not the way to go, I have to say. I may have lost a lot of blood and got to a sort of delirium state. So, because all I want to do, we could go find the exit, but I kind of just want to talk about this last movie with you. So, John, what did you think of Andrew Traucki's Blackwater Abyss from the year 2020? In fact, should I describe how this movie begins?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so-
I'd like to. Yeah, that
So
would be
it's
good.
about a group of cavers who descend through a vertical shaft into a cave system, go through several chambers, and then are trapped by some collapsing rocks behind them.
Oh.
Stop me
Oh,
if
yeah.
you've heard this one before, twice.
Yeah. I think I might have seen something.
It is
that follows that a
incredible.
bit.
It is incredible that the setups for all three of these films are absolutely and completely 100% identical.
I'm pretty sure any movie about splunking and going into these cave systems
and a
like,
bad
is
thing
going to
happening.
even if
Yeah.
it doesn't have a monster, blah blah blah, it's always going to be about people being stuck in them. So yeah, it's always going to happen.
Yeah.
In this one, it's more the water's the problem.
The water's
but
the problem,
but
but the
it
rocks
also
also are the problem.
the water moves the rocks.
Indeed, yes.
But yeah, this movie's just kind of like, nah.
It's true, John.
It's not as bad as The Cave.
That's very true, because this movie has characters in it.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're characters you like or want to engage with.
Yeah,
but they're there,
kind of-
and they have backstories in kind of a fun way.
Yeah.
That maybe not fun for them. But there is one particular dramatic sort of plot point that I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed, because it was so just set up. It's so just in there
Yeah.
to create annoying tension of what is it? So they're trapped, and one of the guys, there's a whole one of the girls is pregnant, and there's two couples, and their weird scrawny mate.
Yeah.
And there's a guy, they make a point early on of making it clear that one of the guys they use the word remission.
Yeah.
So we assume that he has been having cancer treatment and it has been successful.
Yeah.
And there's a whole thing where his girlfriend is pregnant
Yeah.
that hasn't told him yet.
Yolanda.
And then Yolanda. So yeah, there's that whole thing is as soon as she says that,
She's invincible.
she is certainly invincible for at least some portion. Yes,
I know that. I know how movies work. I'm
Yeah.
pregnant. All right, then you're going to be safe.
yeah. They establish that she is pregnant and therefore probably won't be killed.
Yeah.
And also that might be in the way they set it up when she secretly tells the other girl who's there.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is foreshadowing something later, and it is just stupid drama that I did clap and laugh
Yeah.
when I was like, that's so shoehorned in to create drama.
Because The Descent has a similar plot point in a sense, but
Yeah,
it's done a lot better.
it's more tastefully.
You could argue it's maybe not needed either, but
No.
it does.
It gives
the
you
way-
a little bit of extra oomph when
Yeah.
vengeance is meted out. I think.
And the way it kind of shows you it, I really appreciate it at the very start. It's a wee look basically
It's
between
subtle.
Sarah's husband and her friend Juno at the very start, and you're like, that's all it needed.
Yep.
And the audience knows, yes, something's going on between them two.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. Unfortunately, she gets told outright by a friend later. It's kind of a bit annoying how she finds out, but it's not as bad as this one where Jennifer looks through the photos and she sees they're kind of friendly, and she's like, oh, they're fucking cheating. It's like
it's like the friggin' flip book in is it Who Framed Roger Rabbit, when he's looking through all the photos and he's like, what? And then it just gets worse and worse, and then him they're playing patty cake in the pictures and he's moving them so fast that it's animating. It felt a bit like that.
that would have been even better if they were playing patty cake in these photos.
Yeah. It's like because it's like one photo's like a furtive look.
Yeah.
And he's smiling, and then the other photos she's like turned more towards him, and then in another photo, which obviously must have been taken in quick succession, for some reason, and then she's like got this big lovey-dovey smile staring at the side of his face. He's like, oh Jesus, we get it.
Did Jennifer take these pictures, or I'm
I
assuming
think
someone
they're
else
selfies.
did? Oh, right, they're
looks like
selfies.
he is taking a selfie of the two of them, and he is not aware that she's giving lovey-dovey looks, because this is a time before smartphones where like we're assuming he. No, wait, this isn't. This is 2020.
Yeah, I was going to
head's
say
gone upside down. So he must have been able to see her, but it's a camera. She's looking on a camera. Is this a consequence, John, do you think, of the fact that this film is basically a remake of a film that came out years ago in 2007? Was it Blackwater?
Yeah, it seems to be they wanted. Yeah, there's a 2007 movie called Blackwater that they wanted to kind of capitalize on its success, even though I've never heard of it.
Never heard of it either.
But apparently it was successful enough that they wanted to kind of do another one. So this is what they did. And the original one, I haven't seen it, but apparently it's based on a true story of because like. Why do people live in Australia? Everything wants to kill you.
Everything wants to murder you.
So apparently what happens in it, these people go out on a fishing trip and then a crocodile decides, I'm going to eat you.
Yep.
As they do.
So are they in a cave in the first one, do you think?
No.
Probably
no,
not.
apparently.
No.
Well, maybe they end up in a cave at some point, but...
that was added later. Yeah. Because in this one, in the previous two movies, we have monsters going to get people. Ooh. But in this one, it's very much a sort of it's a bit more grounded in that it's a crocodile that is...
Which I think is a monster. My definition of monster would include a crocodile.
If I had to list creatures that live on this earth that are monsters, crocodile is up there sitting right next to the great white shark.
Yeah.
Going, hey, yes, we are prehistoric monsters that are still about and still do sometimes eat people.
Yeah.
So that's a monster in my book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a bit more grounded in that it is a real thing. But yeah, it feels like the whole thing with the camera and her looking through the pictures is so cheesy. But outside of that, John, did you feel like they kind of do an okay job with some of the tension when they're but these motherfuckers just can't stay out of the water. They're like children at a paddling pool. You know, it's like they're talking about, don't splash around. No. Yeah, but by the way, I'm getting back in the water again.
Yeah.
I need this, I need that. I need to go through here, I need this. I need to get in the water again. They're addicted to splashing about in the water. Yeah. And it's so daft, and they keep shouting each other's names all the time in ways that I find really funny.
Yeah,
there was Cash, and then there's Victor.
It's like, Jesus Christ, Victor. Just answer.
Yeah, it's Cash first, and then you're like, oh my god, they shouted his name a lot, and then they get to oh no, Victor, and you're like, oh my god. Although I did really like, speaking of Victor, I do really like the sound of the breaking bones that they use in this movie. I find them very pleasing. I have to say, I was like, oh, that sounds. Like, the Foley work in this is good. Yeah. I think the sound and stuff in it's really good, and it's not terribly shot.
No. And they managed to get that, not as well as The Descent, but they have those moments of the like claustrophobia feeling. Yeah. Usually when Eric and Cash are going... They're swimming down to... I forget. They're going to get help or something.
They go on a mission because, like, the tunnel they came in through is now submerged by the water, so they're like, let's swim back through there and find and see if we can get a way out, and then no, rocks. Yeah. But then they're like, we're sort of trapped in here a bit. Yeah. And then they have some tension there. Now they have some dumb tension where it feels really shoehorned in, where he's like, oh no, my foot just got stuck in a rock. So I'm just trapped for 30 seconds. Yeah. And then fine, and it didn't matter. I think it's just a device to separate the two of them.
Again, another cliched moment of just say, oh no, he's gonna drown, and then no, he's not though.
He didn't, but his mate's away getting eaten by a crocodile now, and that's fun. Yep. You know, I'll say this again, if I know like don't want to sit and compare and contrast to the other movies here, but it's way more fun than The Cave is because things happen, and I'm not going to say that I cared about the characters, but I at least knew who they were. Yeah. You know, and I was like, oh no, death roll, I know what that is. You know, they're doing all that stuff.
Yes, yeah. And at least the motivations were at the very least understandable. What I will say though, which is unforgivable, was the amount of like Deus Ex Machina in this is unbelievable, in the sense that like they come back from one thing not working and it's like, oh no, we're now you're going, well, they've already checked, there's no other like cave systems on this.
But what about over there?
Yeah. Oh, I feel a breeze all of a sudden.
But
and
what
then
about
it's like,
over there?
What?
But what about over there?
Yeah,
John?
and now
John,
over
what about
here.
over there? Oh, I didn't notice this crack.
Yeah.
Let's go investigate there. So these people can be separated and a bad thing can happen to somebody.
Yeah.
And then, we came back and someone's dead. All right, let's split up. Oh, what's that down there? Do you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, like a plug hole. What? What? The explanation for like, I see the light. And then it's like, the water's swirling like a plug hole. Is it?
Yeah.
Is that how? Okay, fair enough. You didn't notice that, like.
And it's Australia,
an
so
hour
it's
ago?
swirling the wrong way around.
I know. Oh, I hate that. Oh, that's what I hate most about them southern hemispheres.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, yeah, that stuff's like they just take as the plot demands it, they notice ways out potentially as they go along.
Like
But,
it's very annoying because it's so obvious and takes you out of it as well because like that didn't work. Did it? The way to do it is that they go, right, well, we should try this first maybe, but then that doesn't, the thing you're going to try is the safest, so that's not going to work.
Yeah, there's an extremely stupid Deus Ex Machina as well. Again, spoilers.
Yeah.
But towards the end, there is just one of the worst, like, again, and it kind of echoes The Descent in a way, in that it's, look, we managed to, small number of the people who started this film managed to get out, find a car, and start to drive away.
Spoiler, one of them's pregnant.
Oh, one of them may be a pregnant lady, yes, who's, has the plot armor, the invincibility
To be honest,
armor.
I think we can say their names because from the very start, it seems like they're the only two that are going to get out of this.
Yeah.
To me, it like very early in, I was convinced, right, well, they're going to survive. Maybe that guy might. I'm not sure. There was a level of that of like, are they going to come out? Are they all going to come out of this only maimed? The only one I was sure was going to die was Cash because he was the least attractive person. I was
he's the scraggly. He actually looks like someone who spends a lot of their time traveling around.
Yeah. So he has to die.
He looks like a guy who's been on an adventure holiday for 3 years and forgot to go home. Yeah, that's what he looks like. So yeah, he's deliberate. So in many ways, he's well cast. In that regard. But also he is doomed because also he has no attachment. Like it's two couples and him.
Yeah.
And he's just this spare tire basically. He's literally the fifth wheel because there's four of them and him. So yeah, you just know, well, he's doomed.
But yeah, so I think we're all right saying, you know what, the two girls are the ones that get out of the game.
Yolanda and Jennifer, pregnant Yolanda and Jennifer not pregnant.
Yep.
So she doesn't have the plot armor. So there is some tension with like, she might still go. You never know. But they have one of the worst examples of Deus Ex Machina since the T-Rex coming through the wall in Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Of just, we're driving down the road and oh no, I've veered off the road back into the goddamn river. It's so stupid. They just, let's just put a tree here. So they like,
that's because the crocodile cut the brakes.
The crocodile cut the brakes and felled that tree.
Yep,
to create an incident.
Oh yeah. He watches a lot of what do you call that?
Columbo. Just imagine
he watches a lot of Columbo.
I just imagine a crocodile watching Columbo and like cosplaying it.
I was thinking more
Dick.
What did you call that one? Dick Dastardly and Muttley.
Oh, Wacky Races.
Yes, Wacky Races.
It's like Wacky Races.
I don't know where Columbo came from.
It came out of me is where it came from. So not brilliant. Columbo then. No, it's like Wacky Races. But yeah, because like I'm sure at some point there was a crocodile in Wacky Races that drove a car and cut down trees. And that has to have been.
And that's why Blackwater Abyss Crocodile watches it all the time. That was his favourite character.
Yeah,
if that character exists.
Yeah, that he has that to latch on to when he watches it, and he's like, I'm gonna be more like him. Yeah, so that's kind of terrible.
Yeah.
But it is funny. Again, I was laughing when that happened because it was so absurd.
Yeah.
After all this, and then then after surviving all this crap and getting away and watching everyone die, and we got the car, and then whoops, drove back into the river again. Now there's crocodile skin. Oh no!
I did appreciate though how bad her aim was, because that,
Yeah,
most of the time in movies, that's it. You've got a gun. That's it. You're sorted. Where I'd probably be shooting like that as well. Be like, no.
Yeah, just miss. Whoops.
Stop moving.
Yeah, but like I'd say that I did still sort of enjoy this film though, in a way.
Yeah. It's one of those dumb kind of dime a dozen horror thriller movies, but if you're into that sort of thing, I would recommend it. If you're not, then just avoid it.
Yeah. If you're specifically looking, if you have a lust for seeing people trapped in a cave threatened by a beastie, then you could definitely do worse than Blackwater : Abyss. Okay, well, sitting down, have a wee coffee here in the old Marble Arch Caves cafe. We're almost out. I mean, there is literally an emergency exit sign over there, and we could leave. I feel like we should probably do something about the beasts that are in here just for the next people. I don't know. But I'm enjoying my little cappuccino and my little fuzzy caverman pencil topper that I got. What do you have in there, John? Is that Americano, is it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It looks really nice. Yeah.
But there's no real rush.
There's no real rush, because, like, I mean, it's all horrible dark in there, and there's definitely the most horrendous noises of beasts getting closer and closer and closer.
Yeah, I mean, they sound very close, but as you say, the exit is, a couple feet away.
I could probably get there, and, like, if I could probably hop over there in a couple of minutes, I would think, with
and
some
I just
help.
need to outrun you.
Exactly, so while they're busy eating me, you could probably get away. Yep. But let's not solve this crisis just yet. John, I think it's the most important thing we could do right now is try to work out which of these was the best movie. So, John, which of these do you think is the best film? And is it so obvious that it's pointless for me to ask?
This is another one of these cases where I think it is the most obvious one. It's The Descent.
Yes.
The other two don't even come close.
Yeah.
Because actually, there was another wee point I didn't even bring up earlier, where just like the kind of small wee nuances, the clever wee nuances in The Descent that make it stand apart, where they don't give exposition for, like, Juno's experienced an experienced splunker, and I think most of them are. And
some of them aren't. They established that pretty well. That, like, there's a few of them are cave diving people.
Yes.
Like, there's the Irish girl Holly, who is literally there to get killed. They set her up in a way that's just perfect. You're like, oh, she's not gonna last very long.
She's the reckless one. Like, and you get this from her character. You don't get this because people are, like, saying, "Oh, she's so reckless." They maybe mention something like, "Oh, you need to calm the fuck down" or something, but that's about it. But there's things they're doing where, like, Juno's using the lighter to find out where the breeze is coming from and stuff like that, and they don't go into big, like, stupid. I think the other two movies would do this, like in Blackwater Abyss. Yeah. At one point, Jennifer is literally going, "There's a breeze coming from here," and has to spell it all out as to that must mean it leads outside or some crap. Where I appreciate The Descent didn't kind of dumb things down for you. It was just like, you either don't need to know, or you'll go, "Oh yeah, she's using the flame to find out."
You can tell it's like like they show you it. They don't need to then also tell you. Yeah, exactly. You can see the fire moving one way, and then she looks over, and then she's like, "This way," and then she goes, and you know exactly what she's just done. Yeah. You can figure that out really easily.
And plus, like, the splunkers in Blackwater Abyss have only themselves to blame for getting into the situation they're in. They go during a storm to this hole to this cave system that hasn't been mapped out. Whereas The Descent had, like, it's Juno's fault. Everything's on Juno.
There's ego at play in The Descent.
Exactly.
they 100% can and do blame Juno.
Yeah.
There's nobody minces their words when they find out what she's done. That
Especially,
she's led
as you
them
mentioned,
somewhere.
the big sister of the group, Rebecca,
Oh, she's
who is the
fucking
sensible one,
raging.
and she's like, "What the fuck? What do you mean? What do you mean? We're not again." They not only did they not have the map, but this isn't the cave system that Juno said that it was. So
yeah,
Rebecca,
she figures it out almost immediately. Like as soon
Yeah.
as she says she didn't bring the book, she's just because she keeps saying to her like, "This is not how I imagined it from
Yeah.
the book."
which shows that again, that wee bit of dialogue shows you that Rebecca was sitting studying this, and she's the sensible. She's been splunking before. She knows how to do it safely, and it's just those details add so much backstory to it and add so much character. And the cave, I don't even know. I can't remember that movie.
The cave was so daft. I don't even really remember. The only thing I don't remember how they even get out of the cave. I think it just fades into them being at a cafe.
Yeah.
I don't remember them actually leaving the cave. The other two movies I do very much,
Yeah.
but with the cave, I'm like, how did they get out in the cave? Because the end is so distracting. The stupid end of the cave is so stupidly distracting and stupid that I
Yep.
mentioned that it's a stupid end, John.
Yeah,
Because it's
one
really
more time.
stupid.
Yeah,
It's
there we
really
go.
stupid, John. It's so dumb. Like you just fade to Lena Headey and block of granite number 2 sitting at a cafe, and then something about sequel baiting, basically.
Yeah.
Of
Shocking that they never got their sequel.
it's so stupid. Of like, the parasite just wanted to get out, and then she just decides at that moment.
Yeah.
She's had like obviously they've managed to go and meet and sit down at a cafe.
Yeah.
And she chooses that moment to make her dramatic run away. Why didn't she just leave earlier
Yeah.
without meeting him?
Oh,
It's
no,
so
she had to show him that she's infected, didn't she?
yeah, and this
That was
is,
important.
he's really bad at following people. He's just my god. I think they just had some more time in.
There was
it Romania that they're in?
Yes, yeah, it's Romania.
Yeah. It felt like they just had some more time. And they didn't have enough film. So like we need this film to be longer. Let's shoot this ending to eat up another like 3 minutes at the end,
Yeah.
I guess. And maybe then we can get a sequel.
It's like
Maybe.
the director really. I'm just looking at this movie is exactly 1 hour and 37 minutes long, and that number has a special meaning to Bruce Hunt.
137. I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know.
It has to be 137.
Was the bus I used to get home from school? The 137. Oh, something I don't know. So it's garbage. We are discounting the cave.
I think they escaped through there's like, wasn't there like a big circle in the water of light that they dive into, and I think that was the exit somehow.
I don't know. All I remember every time I think about the exits, I remember the descent. I remember the end of the descent very well, and I remember that they get out of the cave in Blackwater Abyss through what is essentially a natural U-bend,
Yeah.
as far as I could tell, that has formed somehow. And then even that's not enough to save them.
Maybe the crocodiles got some plumbers in.
Yeah, just to put one in. Yeah, good point. Yeah, some plumbers and some miners to do some work in their wee nest.
Yep.
Yeah. Which comes to nothing as well. That bit, we're in a nest, and then that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That they're in a nest. It's nonsense. Yeah. So let's throw out the cave with great
please.
prejudice.
Yep.
Because it's bad and everyone in it is bad. Even people who shouldn't be are bad in the cave. Blackwater Abyss, as I think we've joked enough about how bad it is to say that it's definitely not the best movie, but I had fun watching it in spurts.
It's silly nonsense.
It's a little schlocky and daft, and some of the practical effects are quite good. Broken bones.
Some of them maybe not.
Yeah, some of the CG. There's a wee bit of CG here and there that is mostly shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Like when, I guess. Oh, spoilers! When Victor gets crunched, that was some CG. The sound there was really good and satisfying, but yeah, it was clearly CG squishes going on. And sometimes it was a CG crocodile, and it was bad. whenever it would just reach out of the water
Yes.
in a big bendy way and grab people, looked kind of garbage too.
Yeah.
But
it actually doesn't feature much in the movie as well. But
no.
and like I'm not. Do you know that could have worked in its favor? But it's just not. It's not done well enough that it works. You know. Again, we've likened all this to Alien over and over, but you know, they don't show the alien, and it works. It works so well.
Yeah.
There is a budgetary reason for that as well, but when they do, as you said earlier, when they do show the alien, it pays off. This not so much. Like, I mean, you mentioned that with the cave, but same with this. You know, it kind of looks a wee bit naff at times.
Yeah, it doesn't look great. They get a lot of mileage out of rippling surfaces and bubbles.
Yes,
and like, it's coming for you. Oh no, there it is. It's a lot of pointing and shouting at where they reckon it might be.
Yeah.
Which can be enough, I guess. It's fine. But it's not a great film. The dialogue is terrible. The sort of the Deus Ex Machina plot points are just so egregious and constant that it does kind of become a joke at some point.
Yeah.
And I kind of grew to accept it after a while, because it was just like, oh, this is just the way this film is.
Yeah.
But it's not great. And like when you put it next to something like The Descent, you're just like, it does not have a chance.
No.
It does not compete. The Descent is tense. It has like interpersonal drama that is tense. It has like
which
you
I
care
would
about
say,
the characters.
Yeah, I would say the drama works for the most part. There are wee times it could have been done better. Weirdly, that scene that they rewrote, it just maybe shouldn't have been in. They should have worked out a different way for her to find out that Juno was
to communicate.
Yeah, to know.
Fact,
there are like wee disappointing moments like that where you're like, fuck, that could have been done better, or you know, some of the CG in The Descent isn't great either, but it doesn't detract as much from it, you know. Yeah,
they do enough practical stuff in The Descent that it overshadows that, so
exactly.
that you can just be like, oh, that's grim. That's grim and up close and personal. There's so much skull smashing in The Descent, with practical effects and spraying blood everywhere. That is something I just really like when that's done well.
Yeah,
you know, and it is done very well. Again, you talk about Foley sounds in Blackwater Abyss. The Foley sounds in The Descent are horrible.
Yeah,
the sounds of piercing flesh and breaking bones are all over the place in The Descent. Especially during that. Now, yes, there is the so we're talking about the shin injury. We have a shin injury in Blackwater Abyss. We have a shin injury in The Descent. Was there one in the cave? I don't know if anyone broke their shin in the cave.
Remember. Probably. Let's just go. Yeah,
because right at the beginning of Blackwater Abyss, when we have, oh my god, I forgot to even mention the Japanese tourists.
Oh yes, yeah.
The Japanese tourists.
Yeah.
Why are these two Japanese people who are out on their own in the bush or whatever, talking to each other in broken English?
Practice?
Why are they talking to each other in their Japanese accents in broken English to each other when they're out on their own together?
Yeah, that was literally all me and my wife could say about that whole scene. We were just like going, why are they? And then occasionally they would say like a wee Japanese line or something. You're like, that makes it even more frustrating.
One of them would just throw in like 3 or 4 words in Japanese, and you'd be like, what?
And we had subtitles on, and it just said speaks Japanese, and you're like, really? Are you fucking serious?
Why didn't they just speak Japanese with subtitles? It was so daft. But yeah, so there's a sort of a crappy version of that injury that happens in that scene, the old shin splinter.
Yeah.
That I enjoyed, but was like, that looks rubbish. The one in The Descent seems genuinely harrowing. It's one of those like, and this is like pre-monsterism as well. This is why the film is still being tense without monsters.
Yeah.
You have a couple of wee things where you see something in the background or whatever, and that's fine. I do love that, and I do like that in the film. And this film does that pretty well.
Yeah.
Here and there in the early goings, we're like, was that something over there? I don't know. But yeah, where your Irish girl falls down an oubliette, in fact, and gets that injury.
You just love that word.
I do. It's so good, and like I rarely get to use it. You know, it's the Marble Arch Caves, man. It's full of oubliettes.
Yep, you've a few years worth just in this podcast alone.
I know, it's great. Yeah, so I do appreciate the injury detail that is done in The Descent is very good.
Yeah.
And nasty, and it looks painful, and it's well played. Like,
and them trying to kind of get it to not trying to heal her, but trying to like put a splint on it and stuff, to know, so that she can get further into the cave and like not just be lying there, is harrowing as well.
And then whenever things kick off, you're like, oh, she's doomed now because she can't run. Yeah, all that stuff's great. So yeah, The Descent, I can't not pick The Descent.
Yeah.
And I am a bit of a fan of Neil Marshall as a director as well.
Yeah.
I think there is a dog soldier's werewolf head in this film. I wasn't sure. There's a part where they enter a place where all the bones and stuff are and all the dead animals, and it does this real close-up on a big head that I think is one of the werewolf heads from Dog Soldiers. It's a big dog head, and I think it's one of them. And if it's not, then whatever. But it looked like one to me.
Yeah, and I'll go along with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to look it up. I'm just going to pretend that that's an Easter egg that he put in.
Yeah, I was happy to see it. I was like, is that a werewolf head? Cool. Does that mean this happens in the same universe and these things add a werewolf? That's messed up. Because I do kind of like his movies. I think he did one called Doomsday that is by no means a great film, but I thoroughly enjoy it because it's almost like many months ago now we did Beowulf with Christopher Lambert, and it feels like Doomsday feels like if they got that right, if they did that the way that they were trying to do it and succeeded, it would be Doomsday. It actually has a similar cat as it. Rona Mitra is also in it, I think.
Oh, cool.
She's the main character in it, and it's like Scotland has been walled off because of a disease, and they're all living like medieval times, and she has to come up from London or whatever, and everyone's living in castles and shit. So it's totally that crappy Beowulf movie done better. Okay. And it's Neil Marshall, so it's goofy and fun.
Might have to give it a watch.
I'm a fan of the man. I like his movies.
Yeah.
And this is probably his best one.
I think without a doubt, for me it's his best. You know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen many of his movies, but I'd say this is definitely the one. The Hellboy one definitely isn't.
I like
garbage.
Dog Soldiers a lot, but I think The Descent is just a straight up. It's a better film. It's definitely a better horror film than Dog Soldiers would be, I would think. We're definitely picking that. So I assume you're also picking The Descent then?
Yeah, I mean that's the only option here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really the only one.
It's the only movie that we watched.
Indeed, but that does raise the question then, which of these movies is the best for? I mean, we can't just leave this bottle uncorked, as it were. You know, because they'll come spilling out, and what if, they come spilling out in the nighttime and go get people? So, which of these movies is the best to sort of hold off or defeat the denizens of the cave of the Marble Arch Caves?
The Marble Arch Caves.
Of the Marble Arch Caves, yes.
Well, none of them are really great. It's like
when you're talking
it's
about
really escape. And just,
if you're talking about like success in defeating, it's not really.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the films involves basically leaving someone else behind intentionally to get at, I guess.
Yeah.
Or
to fight them because he's becoming one of them. Ooh.
Or that, he pulls a sort of. I don't want to talk about the cave again. It's so shit.
I'm getting like serious Ghosts of Mars vibes. Of
Ghosts
the
of
cave.
Mars is jumping into my head as well. And
it's that level of shit. It's just like, how was this
coming
made?
back up? How do we keep talking about it when we were just? It was so bad and dull at the same time.
The cave's kind of worthless.
The
The Descent, Well, I suppose it still counts. The American ending of it is very happy. You know, you escape, and then you get into your car and you drive away, and then your ghost friend appears, and then that's it.
And then, does the ghost friend still appear?
Apparently
in the
so,
happy ending?
in the American version. Like, so that's how it ends. Ghost Juno appears, and then
just cut the credits.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
That's a terrible end.
That's a really bad ending. I'm glad that's like not the real ending, because that's awful.
As far as I'm aware, anyway. But maybe not. I'm just looking up. I'm just reading here.
Right, well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've just looked up, and apparently, as far as I'm aware, as far as this says, the US version, yes, it does end with the ghost of Juno sitting in the passenger seat.
Cut to black. That's so bad. Well, the solution in Blackwater Abyss is be pregnant and have a gun.
Well,
and
that's
then if you're pregnant, both
those are going to be an issue for us.
If you're pregnant, then they can't kill you in the plot of the crappy horror movie.
Yeah.
That's sort of the crappy horror movie rule of Hollywood, or if you want to have a general release movie, is this person's pregnant, so they're not going to die, unfortunately, no matter how much you want them to die. No matter how much you're like, well, she kind of deserves, I mean, no one necessarily deserves to be eaten by a crocodile. But,
yeah,
if you have to pick, if you're going to list them all up and go, okay, only one of these people can live, I don't think I'm necessarily picking her based on her character.
I would have preferred one of those ones where, like, in Blackwater Abyss, if it had killed all of them, I think that would have been great, because it would have been one of those like, oh, that was surprising. I thought this was going to be, as I said earlier, I knew the two female characters were going to escape.
Yeah.
And I was on the fence with one of the male guys. I was like, he might.
Was it the guy who looked like Joshua Jackson and Liam Hemsworth sort of squished together? Was it that guy?
No, it was more the remission guy, because it's like going,
Victor.
Yeah, it's like, is he going to have one of these moments of like, I didn't fight so much just to be eaten by you.
It's kind of shitty of them to be like, have this backstory of this guy who like obviously like has survived, has been through a lot and survived, like having cancer and going through all these treatments and that, and then like, and then he's got asthma. Also, he's got asthma and he's having asthma attacks constantly. And you're like, you can't just murder that guy. It's already shit for him.
Yeah.
And like, oh no, he also got nailed, I guess.
Plus, he's kind of reluctant to go. He's kind of saying to Yolanda, maybe we should just hang about and like drink cocktails.
He didn't even want to fucking go in the cave, did he? He was like, let's go on holiday instead of this grueling slog that these...
Because I liked his idea that like the other boy can go take pictures and then he can just let on to people. Yeah, I went
pretend
splunking.
He was there.
Like Photoshop him into the photos.
Yeah, that's a really good... Yeah, that's a great... I love his idea. That maybe would have been a good solution, to just not come down these caves and go on holiday. Right, so I'm just... You know what? I'm just going to limp over and just lock this door. And, hold on. John, that's the rest of the tour group.
Oh.
Did you... Oh, no. Oh.
You guys are fucking dicks.
They're a rowdy bunch.
Well, we turned off the lights so that the things couldn't see us. I guess this is our fault. Hold on, I turn the lights back on here.
And every single one of them has a shin bone protruding from their leg now.
Everyone's broken their shins with the protruding bone through. Well, whoops. Well, we haven't got enough on bongo here to make enough splints with the straws to get these people out. So I say let's turn the power back on. And we'll just, you can help me, right? I get my arm on you here, right? You're going to help me out here, and we'll go out. We'll get into the car park, okay? Where's your car? Okay, right. Let's go. Okay. Okay, so we are on Twitter. We are at 7 Day Apocalypse. That is at numeral 7 Day Apocalypse. If you want to email us, you can email us on filmcast@thisweeksapocalypse.com. That's filmcast@thisweeksapocalypse.com. Okay, get the car started. Okay, get the fuck out of here. Just drive.
Go.
Bye.
Bye.